Today, staying sober during the holidays. Surround yourself with the brotherhood. Welcome to Sacred Grit, a podcast equipping men to conquer addiction and overcome inner struggles through physical, mental, and spiritual disciplines so you can become a man of honor and integrity. I'm Jason Lyle. Now let's get to work. This episode is brought to you by Oak Haven Diagnostics. What's up, my dude? Welcome back to the Sacred Grit podcast here on Sacred Sunday. So it's the holidays, official, full swing. We're right in between Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up on us quick. And here's the thing about staying sober during the holidays, man. For many of us, we've lost loved ones. And so this is a time of year where we miss them, or maybe this is our first year after a divorce, or maybe, it could be a plethora of things. Or maybe you have to go and face some family members that you really just don't care to be around. Well, here's the thing, man. It's also the time of year where the days are the shortest, right? So there's not as much sunlight, not as much time to get outside. We spend a lot of time cooped up inside. And, the weather here in Georgia has been kind of rainy and cold. Don't know what it's like where you are. But for this time of year where I'm at, it's kind of, even though the holidays are a beautiful time of year, it can get a little bit lonely sometimes for some folks. And so sobriety becomes really a struggle for some folks. So here's the thing that I've been thinking about in that, though, because I've said this before, the opposite of addiction is connection. Staying connected during the holidays is very important, and it's important specifically for men. And I've got this group of guys, and there's a few of them that are really close to me. They're the ones that I call whenever the shit hits the fan, right? Like if I have things that I'm working through in my head or issues that I'm trying to overcome, they're the ones I'm going to call. One of them was up here the other day hiking up the mountain with me. One of them was up here a couple weeks ago riding mountain bikes with me. I'm going down next week to spend some time with three of them. We're going to ride bikes and then hang out and have some dinner. So those guys are like really, really important, and they become even more important, I would say, during the holidays, right? Because just that community. But here's the other thing about community is they keep me grounded into what is real here during holidays, right? It's easy, man, when you spend a lot of time cooped up or when you have struggles, it's easy to get in this echo chamber of your head where you start telling yourself all these different stories about what's real, what's not real, what you feel, what you don't feel. And it's important to have a group of guys around you that are willing to call out your bullshit. They're willing to just say, hey, man, you're not quite seeing that right. But, dude, it's also good just to have some good, solid buddies that you can hang out with. Now, I kind of want to move through this dynamic of thinking about that because I think about the way that Jesus moved through the world, right? He had 12 guys that were kind of his jam. And I used to have a seminary professor all the time said, yeah, don't forget one of them betrayed him. But we all have our shortcomings, right? So there's 12 guys he does life with. Now, out of those 12 guys he's doing life with, he had three, Peter, James, and John, that he really, really poured into. He spent a lot of time with them, and there's a lot of stories about them in the Bible. But out of those three, he had this one, right, Peter, that was just a dude, and they seem to have this relationship. Peter went to follow him walking on water, and Peter's one that wanted to cut off the soldier's ear, and Peter was this zealous, go-getter, and Jesus seemed to constantly be reprimanding Peter, but they were tight, man. They were brothers. And that's what I think about, right, when I think about camaraderie of men. And in my life, what that looks like is I have Adventures in Recovery, and there's probably 30 or 40 men in Adventures in Recovery. But out of that 30 or 40, there's probably 12, 14, 15 that, I see on a regular basis. And out of that 12, 14, 15, there's 3 or 4 that are just really, really close to me. And out of that 3 or 4, there's one that I just have a special connection with, and we, hang out and talk. And that's important because inside of all three of those dynamics, whether it's the 12, 14, the 3 or 4, the 1, I know that these guys care about me. Now, of course I have my family. I mean, there's, my kids, I have a partner and we do life together. All that is there, but it's different when you have a group of guys. Because here's the thing about male camaraderie. Inside of male camaraderie, you get I know what you're going through. So if I say, dude, I'm really struggling with whatever, you name it, they're going to know or feel or have been through what it is that I'm struggling with in some manner. So whether that's lust or addiction or whatever, they're going to understand that. Now, there's people inside my family that are not going to understand that. So this is all about surrounding myself with a group of people who can understand what I'm going through. And for me, that is men. Also think about this idea of Jesus saying, where two or more gather in my name, there so shall I be. And the church used that for, thousands of years now to say, oh yeah, see, you shouldn't neglect going to church. And, while you may or may not need to go to church, and I can honestly say over the years of me being in church, that's where most of the men in past years came from, was a church group. But I don't think that's what Jesus means. I think what Jesus means is this. When a couple of guys get together, in the middle of those two men, given the opportunity, there's just truth to be had. I think it's in Proverbs or Ecclesiastes. It says, where iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. When you just spend time with another dude, you tend to become a better version of yourself if you're spending time with the right dude. Now, this also leads me into thinking about AA, NA, SA, all of these different anonymous programs, which are amazing. I remember the first time I ever walked into an SA meeting and sat down and just said, hey, my name's Jason and I'm struggling with sex. Everyone in there knew what I was going through. They knew what I had gone through, and they knew the position I was sitting in was because they had been there. And so they started trying to help me get structure around my life. And man, those meetings have and will always, I'll be so grateful for those meetings to the day that I die, because they gave me this solid foundation. And we all need that if we're going through recovery. You know what I'm talking about. But those meetings cannot replace good, solid camaraderie. Just the full out dudes, messing with each other and ribbing on each other. I love it. But at the same time, being able to have serious conversations about their lives, because dude, that's what will keep you sober. Living in isolation gives your brain this echo chamber to continue to ruminate on the same things. Living in community lets you really kind of parse out what you believe. Because as long as you're just in your own head, what you believe is just what you think you believe. But when you start saying it to another human, when you start unpacking what it is that you believe about life and God and family and all these different things, and you hear yourself say it and you see that other human's reaction, you start to realize, oh, wait a minute, this is actually what I do believe, or maybe that's not what I believe, and you become a better version of yourself. That's how you build the capacity to have sacred grit, is by being a better version of yourself. My dude, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for spending the time to turn these things on and get the information. I hope it makes a difference in your life. It has certainly changed mine, all these things that I share. If you go down there in the show notes, you can click on that Calendly link and you could book a consultation call with me. I would love to help you find your way in any way that I possibly can. And I just really appreciate you listening. And I appreciate folks that sponsor us like Capital City Roofing and Brad Strawbridge. I went by there the other day, hung out with Brad for a little while, talked about some things with Adventures in Recovery, and he decided he wanted to sponsor the podcast. And I'm thankful because it's people like him that allow me to continue to do what I do. Now, Brad at Capital City Roofing and all those guys, they are there for all your exterior needs. That's, concrete siding, that's roofing. They can do it all. And you can find everything you need to know at capitalcityroofing.net. Hit them up and give them your business. All right, my dude, I will see you on Gritty Wednesday.